Hey, everybody. I'm here with my good friend Stephanie. You could say hi, Stephanie.
Hey.
So, we wanted to jump on here. This is a little bit of an impromptu um, little training or info session, so to speak. And I'm going to leave up here for those that have been following my podcast or me on social media at all in the last 2 weeks or so. Stephanie and I, along with Sherry Tree, have been promoting this masterclass that we're going to be diving into tomorrow evening from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live and recorded. It's the Social Media Sales Masterclass. And this actually, just to kind of give people a little bit of the backstory, this was in talks about 3 or 4 months ago. We had jumped on a call and we were just kind of brainstorming, and Sherry was launching something, Stephanie was launching something, I was launching. It just wasn't the right time, and we wanted to get something nailed down in the beginning of the year to really give people the ability to really get a jump start on everything that's going on this year. So, if you do happen to come in live, as always, please drop into the comments and say hi and where you're tuning in from. Or if you're watching on the replay, you can use hashtag replay. So I wanted to bring Stephanie on here because I wanted to kind of tackle a few different things. Well, number one, for anyone that does want to register, the URL to register is right here. All you have to do is go there. It's www.thetimetogrow.com/social media masterclass. Very easy. Registration's still open. We have nearly 150 people pre-registered, which is it's awesome. And it's only 2 hours of your time. So this isn't a 7 or 8 day masterclass that you have to sit through. Stephanie, myself, and Sherry, we're going to cut to the nitty gritty and just get right into it. But Stephanie, what I wanted to talk about first is social media sales is a constant topic that is always talked about. It's this misnomer. How are some people closing sales? How are other people not closing sales? And like myself, you have been not just on social media, but you've been teaching sales methodologies for a very long time. From the people that you have and continue to work with, what do you feel is the main contributing factor or factors to why people are still really struggling with closing sales on social media?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons. One is social media keeps changing and it can feel overwhelming with like, what do I do now? Everything is shifting. And I think what we have learned over the last couple of years is that we've got to up our skill sets on social media. Like we have to in order to survive in this new world that we're living in. And then secondly, people struggle with what to say and how to say it to the right person at the right time. They come from their own point of view, and your own point of view is great if there's someone just like you. But the reality is, and the science tells us that there are many different personality types in the population. And so, what I do as a code breaker trainer, is I help you identify the personality type of the person in front of you so that you can shift what you're saying to meet them where they are in the moment and help them actually take in the information in a way that makes sense for them.
So, the best way that I can correlate that for people that have never heard of Codebreaker technology or any of that is almost like the five love languages. And for anyone that's ever read that book, it's always best to read that book and to find out what your partner's love language is, because the natural human tendency is to fill that person's cup up with your love language, the way that you would want, whether it's words of affirmation, whether it's gifts, whether it's whatever it is. And the same goes when you are communicating with people on social media. and when you're looking to close sales or you're looking to make genuine connection with people, the natural human tendency is to talk to people the way that you would want to be talked to. And, there's a concept that's called mirroring and matching. And it's mirroring someone's tone, their inflection, the volume of their voice, maybe hand gestures. So it's obviously relating to that person. But a lot of people don't take the time, energy, and effort to really understand how important it is to learn the language of how someone else speaks in regards to making decisions. So, Stephanie, what have you found in not only just being a code breaker, but being on the other side of the coin, understanding you personally, how important it is to treat each conversation differently, to treat each human that you connect with differently? How powerful has that been for you and your business, but also what you teach?
Yeah, well, it's made all the difference. So when I first started to learn this methodology, I had a certain type of client that I liked to work with because they were more like me. And there were lots of other people I could be helping, but they weren't resonating with me the same way because I wasn't speaking their language. So when I started to shift how I was speaking to them, they started to go, oh my gosh, I really like what you're saying. I can see how the value of what you bring to the table. Let me explore this further. Let me sign up with you. And I started to dramatically increase my sales for my business. Not only that, but I was able to speak to my husband differently, who is a completely different personality type from me. I was able to relate to my family members and friends differently, realizing who they are and how they function. And so all of my relationships started to improve, my business relationships and every person that I started to interact with, which just in general makes life a whole lot easier.
The other big thing is that what I really feel is still too many entrepreneurs are waiting for people to reach out to them to work with them. They're waiting for the quote unquote lay down sales. And my wife says this all the time, sales is a contact sport. You have to contact people, you have to talk to people, and understanding. And there's different methodologies. There's the DISC method. There's the Enneagram. Really understanding personality types. And what I love about the code breaker methodology is it's simplified. It's very easy. And part of what I teach on LinkedIn is to really create as much human connection as possible, because that's where the relationships are built. So if people were to take the concept of what I've been teaching on LinkedIn for the last 8.5 years and the codebreaker technology that Sherry's created and you implement beautifully, you really become bulletproof when it comes to really understanding not so much how to create more sales, but how to speak other people's languages. And just to let everybody know, the online space is just getting more and more crowded. So if you think that what we are going to be covering in tomorrow night's masterclass isn't needed, you're wrong. And it's only going to become more needed the more people are residing to the fact that they're going to have to start connecting with people online. So, Stephanie, when someone does ask you, what's the big difference between understanding what number Enneagram you are or the DISC method compared to the Codebreaker Bank technology, what's the easiest way to differentiate, or I would say classify them as different ways of understanding someone's language?
Yeah, so let's take DISC for example. So if you take DISC, our acronym that we use is called BANK, BANK. So if we line them up, we like to say they're exactly the same, only completely different. And it's the difference that's a game changer, because while the other assessment is based in psychology, or the psychology of learning all about who you are as a person, ours is based in biology, spelled BUY. the science of buying behavior. We don't actually care, for example, if you're an introvert or an extrovert, because that has absolutely no bearing on what makes you say yes or no in a sales conversation. We've reverse engineered the assessment to predict buying behavior specifically. So when you understand your bank code, you know what triggers you to say yes, and you know what tripwires you to say no in any conversation.
And the big thing that people watching this live on the replay, you have to start asking yourself, am I struggling with sales right now? And here's the thing. That doesn't mean you're bad at sales. It may mean that you don't understand the buying habits and patterns of the person that you're talking to. Maybe you're spending too much time on their tripwire of them saying no than you are understanding the language of them saying yes. So that brings up an interesting question. So that person's probably thinking, all right, well, I get that. Well, how can I know ahead of time what someone's personality type is, or their language, or what their buying habits may be? How can I find out before I get on the phone with them?
Yeah. Super, super simple. You ask them. You ask them, and there's different ways to do that. So in this virtual world that we're living in, we have an electronic way for you to take an assessment that takes less than 90 seconds. Less than 90 seconds. So it's not like you have to sit down and take a 10-minute, 15, 45-minute quiz. 90 seconds or less. So I actually work it into my appointment scheduler. So when someone gets on my Calendly and they pick a time to meet with me, I give them a link to go take a 90-second assessment and tell me what the results are before we get on the phone together. And I always position it as, this is going to help me get to know you better. This is going to help me serve you on our call so I understand more about who you are.
Why do you feel people aren't utilizing this technology or this methodology enough?
Well, first of all, we're probably a really like the best unkept secret. We're just getting out there into the world. We're starting to make a footprint. And the more people know about us, I think it's going to become more standardized. Like, knowing about bank and using it for your conversations is going to become a thing. And I know that is a goal of our company. But I also think people have a lot of preconceived notions about what sales is or how to approach a conversation. And we're humans. So we have habits. And when you ask a human to change a habit or to integrate a new tool, we have resistance to that, right? So we have to overcome our own limiting beliefs about what it means to have conversations, or maybe our limiting beliefs of what we think other people are going to think about us when we ask them for a simple piece of information that's just going to help raise the level of the conversation.
So who is this best serve? Because again, there's so many different types of people that are in different forms of sales. So let me reframe that question. So who do you see struggling the most when it comes to closing more sales on social media, and who does this methodology serve the best?
Basically, the small business owner. I mean, this was created by a small business owner because she was struggling in sales and she was struggling in communication. And if you are on LinkedIn, for example, and you're a small business owner, we've all been inundated with the spammy messages. We've all been approached by those people who tell us, oh, I can help you get 3 to 5 new LinkedIn leads every day or every week, and it's just this awful sort of like, it's not an organic way to build relationships. And so we have resistance to, how can we be different? How can we actually be on social media and create an impact without coming across as one of those types of people?
And the big thing that I always tell people is that I this is just me. I hate I really dislike how a lot of people use social media. I just feel it's a lot of copy and paste. I feel like it's very disingenuous. I feel like that there's not enough good sales trainers out there. I think people are struggling in the space of creating and becoming very good at sales because they're not being taught the right way. When you break down the sales skill set, it's basically being a good human connector, being a good listener. Something that I always tell people is that we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. And people are talking too much and they're listening too little. And when, again, just like you, when you can take the time ahead of time to really understand that person, what makes them tick, what pushes them away, all it's going to do is raise the level of the chances of them wanting to buy from you through the roof. Now, again, this is not a 100% fail-proof system because, again, there are some human things that come into play, whether it's third-party approval, whether it's monetary issues. Those are things out of your control. But creating a comfortable and meaningful buying environment, that can be created. Now, obviously, you've worked with a lot of people over the last number of years. What are some of the biggest transformations that you've seen from people that have gone from, I suck at sales, I'm not good at this, I can't do this, to then experiencing radical changes?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, we have endless amounts of stories. I mean, personally, I've trained hundreds, actually probably thousands of people this method over the last 6+ years. And a couple of people that really stand out to me are going to be that small business owner, right, who's having those one-on-one conversations and they keep bumping up against the resistance. They keep bumping up against that person who doesn't have the money or doesn't have the time or the timing's not right. And when you know this methodology, you actually can address those objections before they happen. So it becomes part of your marketing. It becomes part of how you show up in conversations with them. And so they never even get to the objection piece of the conversation, or when they do, they've already sort of walked themselves through it, at least partially. So I find that my best success stories have been other coaches that I've personally worked with. So usually they're a life coach or a business coach, or they're a health coach. Those have been, the types of people that come into my sort of orbit. And I also see it because I also run a networking group. So I also see a lot more success from my bank members of my networking group who understand bank, and they're using it for networking purposes. So they're using it for that initial connection when everything from, hey, is your 30 to 60 second introduction captivating? Because now we can create those introductions in such a way that all 4 personality types can sit up and listen and go, oh, I heard something that appeals to me. I want to talk to that person later. And so it's a great networking tool. And then when you get on that networking call, that one-on-one call with them after a networking meeting, and their bank code, you absolutely can create faster rapport in that conversation. So I see a lot of my members really succeed in having a lot more one-on-ones and a lot more conversations that lead to opportunities for them.
So what would you say to that person? Again, Sherry and myself have teamed up. We have almost 45 years combined with sales experience. And you hear this a lot of people in entrepreneurship, whether they're in some sort of online marketing business where they already have a quote unquote mentor, helping them, or they're a part of a coaching program where they have stuff in place. Again, what we like to do is position ourselves as social media sales experts, because we are. This is what we do. So what's your message to that person that feels like they already have the support? They may not be getting the result, but they feel like they already have the support from someone they're working with, someone they're tied to, someone they're connected to when it comes to social media sales.
Well, on some level, you have to have a need. You have to recognize in yourself that you don't have all the answers and that you do have a need to be better on social media. So if you are that person, what I would say is what we do just complements anybody else that is supporting you. It just adds a little jet fuel to what you already know and the people that you're already connected to who might have great sales training methods. They might have a great way of helping you walk through a one-on-one conversation. But when you add back to it and you layer that on top, it gives you an edge, because now following that same process that maybe your coach has given you, you can insert very specific language based on their bank code. So for example, one of the things that I did is I have a business coach. I've had a business coach for over 7 years, and she has a method that she uses that I learned about how to have a one-on-one conversation. And I started to create scripts for, if I knew they were nurturing first, I already knew that these potential objections were going to come up. And I also knew that what I did as a coach had certain value to the nurturing personality type. So I would create little bullet points for myself to make sure that I'm reminding them of how I support them in their communication, about how I help them create a larger network of people, how I donate my time and a portion of my proceeds to a cause that I feel passionate about. And those types of things speak to that nurturing personality type, which is different than if I was having that same conversation with the blueprint. And they have a different set of values. And so I had different bullet points that I would bring up in different pieces of that conversation. And it just added to it, you know?
Let's pause right there for a second. So let's give people an example, right?
Right.
So let's use that blueprint person as an example, because
Yeah.
describe that blueprint person. Who is that person on the other, like what are their personality traits like? You know, what makes them tick? What are their buying habits? What makes them say no?
Yeah. Okay. So the blueprint, let's talk about the trigger to a yes for a blueprint. One of them is that you stay within their budget. So they are super budget conscious. They are the most likely to say, that's not in my budget. I don't have the money for that right now. So what you don't want to, what you need to do to help get a yes for a blueprint who's feeling like budget tight is you have to show them that the risk to not invest is greater than if they go outside their budget. So it's all about how you position the risk for them, because they are risk adverse. So they are always looking for the safety piece. They're always looking for, how can I protect myself? So if you've got a money back guarantee, for example, if you have a coupon code, yes, they absolutely, and they like it in writing. So they're very black and white writing. Give me a contract I can read through, make sure I understand, you know, exactly what I'm signing myself up for and how to get out of it.
So Stephanie, where does that come from? Is that inherited through our DNA, through our parents? Like where do these personality types actually come from?
Well, that's fascinating. We are value-based. This is a value-based assessment. So it's really about your value system. So I have noticed, like my son, when he was born, he had a personality. Where that came from, I can only say God, the angels, who knows? But as time progresses, more of his personality traits started to become evident. And he is a little action personality type, just like me. And it shows up in different ways, but mostly it shows up in his like lack of wanting to follow anyone else's structure or rules, with like a blueprint, right? Like my husband's a blueprint. It's all about the structure. It's all about, you know, we go to bed this time, we wake up at this time, we brush our teeth. This is the routine that we have every morning before breakfast. School starts at this time, yada, yada, yada. And my son, he's like, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, because he's an action type, right? So because it's value-based, we also know that our bank code does not shift easily. We have to have a major life transition to something that really shifts our values within our lives in order to shift our code. Mm-hmm. So, for example, one of the ways we differentiate from other personality assessments that are out there is that we don't really have a shift between work and school and home. Our bank code is our bank code. The influence of how we say yes and no is the same in a large, big picture sense, but you might have a shift over time. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah. So again, you know, really understanding the different types of people, because I believe it's a blueprint, action, nurture, and knowledge, correct?
That's right. That's right.
So, and again, I think, you know, anyone that's watching this, you know, live or on the replay, you can think about people that you've spoke to that are the blueprint type, or they're the action type. You know, the action type is like, all right, let's do this. Let's go. Like, where do I sign? You know, here's my credit card. And, you know, then there's those nurturing types that want to feel a certain way. And then there's, again, it's so helpful to know all of this. So, Stephanie, before we wrap up, for anyone that is thinking of joining us tomorrow night from 7 to 9 p.m., obviously they're going to get a taste of Sherry, which I'm really, really excited about because she's so dynamic, and obviously she's who mentored you. What can people expect during tomorrow night's training for those 2 hours with, myself going over, how LinkedIn can play into this bank methodology with Codebreaker, and what do they expect to take away from it?
Yeah, well, the whole reason this masterclass is happening is because I trained with Sherry and I trained with you. And I was like, the two of you need to get together because I saw this workshop in my mind's eye. And I'm like, this is going to be a match made in heaven because I've been using both these methods. I'm using bank, so I'm reaching out to different personality types based on who they are, not who I am. And I'm using your method of a very simple, structured daily outreach on social media that takes less than 20 minutes and allows me to fill my schedule with aligned prospect calls. And it has been so effective that I've actually had to slow down my outreach at times because I just don't have enough slots on my schedule. And it's also doubled my registrations on my live events, my networking calls that I
Wow.
hold. So it is phenomenal. I stand behind it 100%. But I think what people are really going to get from this is they're going to up level their communication skills on social media. They're going to get a simple system that's easy to implement that creates organic connections, not templates, bots, your VA doing it, whatever.
Yeah.
Do it yourself, but it's easy. You can follow through easily with it, and it creates dramatic results. And I think they're going to have their mind blown about a couple things, especially around how personality types play into this system that you have and how they can really start to make slight changes to the words that they use that will have a huge impact for the listener.
Yep. And anyone that's watching this live or on the replay, if you would like to register, just type "I do" in the comments below. The registration link is right here. It's www.thetimetogrowcom/social media masterclass. And why I'm really excited about this is again, once Sherry and I started really talking, with Stephanie, is we saw the perfect marriage between how I teach and how I personally leverage LinkedIn from a lead generation standpoint. It's the number one lead generation tool for anybody that's looking to generate sales on social media. It's not Facebook, it's not Instagram, it's LinkedIn. But there's a specific way to leverage it, and I organically use it in a way where you're specifically targeting the right kinds of people that would be most open to you, and you couple that with understanding the type of personality they are, whether they're a blueprint, whether they're an action type, a nurture type, or a knowledge type, it's only going to help you. It could never hurt you. So we're excited for tomorrow night. Again, we have close to 150 people already pre-registered. We're not asking for a lot of your time. We're just asking you to really take the time for yourself to learn how to become better. And that's why we've really jam-packed this into 2 hours, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is live and recorded. Each person gets a workbook from myself and Sherry, so you can follow right along. There's going to be slideshows. It's going to be very interactive. And again, you're all going to walk away from this and you're going to be like, I did not know that. And the fact is, we created this workshop to make everyone's life easier, not more difficult, to trim the fat and to cut through all the noise. So, Stephanie, any final message before we sign off tonight?
Just get yourself there and live, by the way, this is not something you want to watch later because we're going to be giving away some really great bonuses to everyone who's there live with us because we want to reward you for showing up. I think that's the number one success tip I can give anybody is show up.
Yeah.
To anything, not just this masterclass, but show up live to things because that's where the magic happens.
Yep. And again, once you guys meet Sherry, she's just an amazing human being, and everything that she has created with the Codebreaker technology and bank, it's solving problems. Just like the reason why I created everything that I created with LinkedIn. It's to solve people's problems, to make them more successful, and to enjoy what they're doing that much better and create ease. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for jumping on with me tonight. Excited to spend tomorrow night with you as well. And again, for anyone that does want to register, again, all you have to do is go to www.thetimetogrowcom/social media masterclass, or just drop an I do in the comments below and we will send you that link. So with that, have a great night and we will see you tomorrow.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
Scott. Bye.